De la right, my MVVs, welcome. Report reaching us right now is that the palace of the Ooni of Ife is lamenting, over the level of hunger for Queen Naomi that is becoming unbearable, that Ooni of Ife's hunger for Queen Naomi is becoming unbearable, that the Ooni of Ife abandoned the prestigious annual Ancestral Council meeting for Queen Naomi upon hearing that Queen Naomi was not doing well after the, prayer section at the Osara Grove. This is what we are hearing, Yes, so they said the annual Ancestral, Council meeting is not just any gathering. It is the most sacred convergence of Yoruba royal elders, high priests, palace historians, and selected traditional rulers from all over Yoruba land. It is a spiritual convocation convened once a year within the, hallowed chambers of the ancestral court in Ile-Ife, the spiritual headquarters of the Yoruba people. Here matters that concern not only the present welfare of the people, but the ancient connection to the ancestors are discussed. The Ooni of Ife, as the spiritual father of all Yoruba people and the living representative of Oduduwa, preside over this, assembly. In this council, traditional protocols are observed. To the latter, royal seals are open. Oracle priest delivers the ancestral reading. Delicate issues ranging from upcoming festival, ancestral mandate, spiritual alignment, to even prophecies and royal dispute are dissected with care. Attendance is non-negotiable, especially for the Ooni of Ife. His presence is not symbolic; it's spiritual. The entire gathering hinge on his, voice, his authority, his energy. But this year, something happened that no one in the history of the Ancestral Council meeting could have imagined. Just hours into the sacred gathering, news quietly reached the Ooni through one of his trusted aides, Queen Naomi, who had spent over 7 hours in the Osara Grove the day before in deep prayer and fasting, had fallen ill. The grove had experienced an unexpected downpour, a heavy rain that drenched the land and soaked the air with cold wind. She had insisted on completing her fast, sitting in silence even as the weather changed. By morning, she was weak, running a fever and coughing with chills. Her health had declined swiftly. The Ooni's demeanor changed the moment he heard. His once, composed frame shifted. He excused himself politely but firmly. At first, the elders assumed it was for a short recess, perhaps to consult an oracle, but within a minute he had boarded his royal, vehicle and was en route, abandoned so as to go to Lagos. It was an emergency. The helicopter was not there waiting, And so they said the room went silent. A moment later, a murmur broke out, first in hushed tones, then rising in wave of confusion, anger, and disbelief. How can Kabiyesi abandon the council? One elder back, slamming his bearded, staff on the ancestral mat. We are gathered here not as politicians, but as bearers of ancestral responsibility. This is not a love affair. This is destiny, at work. But another elder, more moderate, raised his hands and said gently, "And is love not part of the destiny? Will the ancestors not frown upon a man who abandons his own house to sit in the temple while his beloved is in danger?" That was what another elder said. Voices clashed, chiefs stood from their mat, high priests shook their head, palace elders formed into a group, one faction led by Chief Owagbami, Owogbemi, of Ijesha lineage, called the Ooni's action a break in tradition and insult to the ancestors. He reminded them all how every Ooni in history had prioritized the council above personal matters, even in times of family, dead or what. This is secret, he repeated. We do not abandon the ancestors for a woman, no matter how, beloved, they say one of the chiefs said. But another group with, younger progressive elders countered, with a different wisdom. This is not just a woman. One said, this is Queen Naomi, the only queen who ever brought, revival to the spiritual reputation of this palace, the queen whose prayers once stopped the outbreak in our city, the queen whom Kabiyesi himself say he hears from God through. If she is unwell, the balance of the palace is at stake, okay? Now, they say the debate stretch long into the afternoon. The sacred, talking drums that were meant to signal the next oracle section remained silent. The Oni's golden throne sat empty, and tension brewed like a storm cloud. Meanwhile, in Lagos, the Oni had arrived at the royal mansion and went straight to Queen Naomi's chamber. She laid under soft, cotton sheet, pale, her forehead mused with a damp cloth, okay, placed by the royal nurse. The moment she saw him, she tried to, rise, but he gently pressed her, back down. They said her stay in that grove, okay, Sorara grove where she went to go and break her fast, say really affected her, that there was a downpour, a very serious downpour, and she could not, because she had slated that day for that fast and all of that. She couldn't stop. Nothing could stop her. So that was the reason why Kabiyesi waited that long. Now, they said Kabiyesi went to the royal mansion to meet Queen Naomi. Everyone were scattered. People were angry. Why will he leave the meeting and go? You should not have waited so long in the rain, he whispered. That was what Kabiyesi said to Naomi. I needed to finish, she said, her voice weak. And now you will hear, he replied, sitting beside her, holding her hands, unmoving. So what we are hearing now is that back in Ile-Ife, as what reached the council that the Oni had chosen not to return that day, a heavy silence fell. Some elders were furious, others were silent with respect. One of the high priestesses eventually stood and said, let us not forget that even kings are men, and even the ancestors understand compassion. They said that was what a priestess said. It was then that the Oni's chief, scribe, entered the room with a scroll. It bore the royal seal and message from the Oni himself. In it, he apologized for the disruption, explained Queen Naomi's condition, and officially, postponed the council meeting by 2 weeks. He offered prayers to the ancestor, pledging to reconvene with double sacrifice and spiritual offering once the queen recovers. Again, the room was split. The elders tore a corner of his wrapper in anger. This is blasphemy, he cried. But the high priestess only responded with a cryptic proverb. Even the sun pauses for the moon when the time is right. They said that was as in, these whole elders, the way they take the whole thing, they will just make it look as if Kabiyesi is no longer a human being. He is, for crying out loud. In the days that followed, the palace was divided. Some believed the Oni had set a dangerous precedent, that his love for Queen Naomi now overrode his, rule as ancestral custodian, but others begin to view it differently. They saw a deeper layer of spiritual wisdom in his decision. After all, was it not Queen Naomi who had brought Christianity into sacred spaces without desecrated them? Was she not the first queen to blend tradition and prophecy? Perhaps the ancestors themselves understood that healing her was part of the spiritual work the Oni had been called to do. They said that was how some people argued. As Queen Naomi slowly regained her strength, the Oni remained by her side. He cancelled all, public engagement and instructed that prayers be held across all royal, prayer site for Olori Naomi. The same elders who had criticized him began to receive quiet dreams and visions. From what we are hearing, confirmation that perhaps Kabiyesi had seen what they could not see. A lot of them are trying to kind of be cold with Kabiyesi. When they blow, they see that nobody is supporting them, everybody is tilting towards the area of Kabiyesi. They will now come later and say they have seen one dream, they have seen this, they have seen that. Queen Naomi knows all of those tricks, but it doesn't really matter to Olori Naomi. This is what has been going on. If the information we are hearing is true, Dela writes, I'm going to bring you more update. Do not forget that these are all alleged, rumored, unverified information making the rounds on social media and should not be seen as fact.